G'day Internet, my name's Aaron Keeling. This is my YouTube channel called Backyard Politics, where I talk about politics in my backyard. So let's get started. The first story today is about Melbourne Crime. Malcolm Turnbull and other senior cabinet members have come out against the Labor Premier of Victoria, Daniel Andrews, about the growing crime in Victoria and in Melbourne. And there's also been a lot of concern over African-related crime, and there's been a task force set up by the Victorian Police on Tuesday. Now, I want to do a more in-depth video next week, but I wanted to just start this story now and get your comments about what you think about this issue, and if you think it's a legitimate issue and you think that there is a growing problem and it is solely African related, or is this a scare tactic that the Liberal government are using, because it is 10 months out from a state election, and crime is something that many people perceive to be a weakness in Labor. So is this something that's legitimately concerning to you, especially if you're someone living in Melbourne or Victoria? And if it is concerning to you, do you think it's solely African-related youth violence, or is that just a demographic that people are targeting in the media at the moment? Love to hear your thoughts. Second thing that I'd like to talk to you about is Sydney, their trains. It's been a disaster for the last 2 days, but things have looked like that they've stabilised at the moment. It had to do with the new timetable that they rolled out. It got rolled out too quickly, is what the public transport boss said today in the media. But then there's been a lot of talk on Twitter about just some of the really harsh realities that train drivers have to go through to do their jobs, and how little they're being paid for it and how little they're being compensated for it, and so just some of the conditions that they go through. And so it looks like that it's kind of resolved in Sydney at the moment, but there's trade talks happening soon, or there seems to be trade talks happening soon, and that could further derail the service in Sydney. In Melbourne, we don't have any disputes ongoing at the moment, but public transport is something that many people aren't too happy with or like to complain about, and there's certain infrastructure that we just don't have. Like, we don't have a train route to our airport. We should have a train route to our airport, and other infrastructure woes that are happening in Melbourne, like the Westgate Tunnel, and they're doing some works currently still in the CBD, making some extra underground train routes as well to cut through that city loop. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of public transport and transport infrastructure in Melbourne and Sydney and anywhere else in Australia that you're watching this from. And in other train-related news, the Ghan came out maybe about a week ago. It was just this documentary of the ride of the Ghan, which is a train route that goes from Adelaide, which is basically the southern coast of South Australia, all the way up to Darwin, which is the northern coast of the Northern Territory. And I guess living in the city, living in a metropolitan area, you kind of forget just how big Australia can be. And it was really fascinating watching that 3-hour documentary while playing Monopoly with my family. Just the different landscapes that the train goes through in that, just cutting across Australia. And it's not just desert. There's a lot of desert, but there's a lot of beauty, and there's a lot of interesting history and insight to that too that I hadn't ever learnt about before. Also, they've just SBS released that documentary a week or so ago, and they've now come out with a 17-hour version. So if 3 hours wasn't enough for you, they now have 17 hours. So go for your life. A ticket on the Ghan is probably going to set you back over $2,000. So this might be the best chance you've got to see the Australian wilderness at its peak. Also on that issue, an American has just died in the Australian wilderness in the Northern Territory. Those the conditions in that environment are extremely dangerous, especially at this time of the year, in the middle of summer. So yeah, if you are thinking about trekking out there or doing your own exploration, be safe and be prepared, and do lots and lots and lots of research first. That would be my tip, and everyone else's tip as well, I would imagine. Yeah. Number three. In some feel-good news, we've got a chocolate bar called the Violet Crumble, and it has been sold by the Swiss company Nestle, which we all probably know about, to a South Australian-based company called Robin Menz. So woo! We've now got, so that's kind of a win for Australian businesses. As soon as I get paid, I'm going to buy like a dozen Violet Crumbles, and yeah, they're my favorite chocolate bar as of right now, and they're very tasty as well. But I just think the fact that Australian businesses are buying back some of what has originated in Australia, as buying them back, that's really good for Australia and really good news, and we're celebrating about. So if you're in the supermarket next and you're in the confectionery lane for some strange reason, get yourself a Violet Crumble bar and eat it with the satisfaction that you're paying an Australian business. Yeah. Number 4, we're going to be talking about something called the AussieFlu. Now, after a humiliating defeat to the Aussies over the summer for the Ashes, they've now started complaining about an Aussie flu that's breaking out, and the first reaction is to laugh and say, "Oh, what's an Aussie flu?" But when you look at the pictures on Twitter and the internet about the Aussie flu, and the newspapers that are coming out in these in the Sun and the UK papers, the Sun might not be a paper. If you look at all the images on Twitter and the internet and all the British newspapers, it's legit. It's a legitimate flu. People are taking it really seriously. It's an outbreak. It's the H3N2 flu strain, which we might actually recognize because we dealt with this flu in our winter, which was, June to August. So we've dealt with that flu. We've kind of bounced back from it, but it was a big thing over here for us for those 3 months, and it's their winter now, and they're getting that same flu strain. So one of us must have brought it over there. No, probably not, but they're probably just they're dealing with the same thing that we dealt with 3 months ago, 4 months ago. So that's why they're calling it the Aussie flu, and they're probably having some fun blaming it on us. So yeah, but yeah, also on the cricket, the BBL Test series. Who's watching that? I am. It's just, gosh. Anyway, last night, big shocking news. Shocking decision by the ref. I'm actually going to get my notes out to read this because I want to be accurate and I want to... Gosh. So, before I start complaining, I've got to mention Darcy Short, who scored a record of 122 runs for the Hurricanes. Brilliant effort. Good shot at scoring a century. Gosh, it's amazing. It's a short game, so being able to score a century is pretty hard, and being able to take as many liberties as you can and still score such a big number, that's really commendable. But the interesting part of the night came when Hurricanes batter Alex Ross was called out for obstructing the field. Now, what do you think about that? If you've watched the game, I want to know if you think that was a fair decision, and if he was obstructing the field or if he was just hiding from the ball. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'm going to actually play you the clip right now so you can judge for yourself if you haven't watched it yet. In final news, sexy kangaroo. Just imagine... Final news, just imagine you're a tourist and you go to a public bathroom and you meet a kangaroo. Well, one tourist in Perth had that experience and took a picture And now we've got the phenomenon known as the sexy kangaroo. So I thought I'd show you this picture, liven up your day. That's my first real video, and yeah, that's my first video. I'll be back tomorrow to talk more about politics. Hope you liked it, and if you didn't like it, then that's okay, but please give me some suggestions, and hopefully we can make a really good YouTube channel out of this. Yeah, thanks. See ya. Bye.